Man, Mike, you brought up something that was just spot on today, and it happens, I think, to so many one of us. Where and tell me if I captured this wrong, Mike. If you haven't checked out our monthly membership, I highly recommend to do so. Just for $2.99, your questions get sent to the top for quick replies. I'm asking for a little more support to build up my war chest so that I can continue to keep giving you open and honest reviews, and we can further defend our right for free speech. Thank you so much, everyone. Basically, you accumulate, and I'm not going to talk about too much about money or our product too much. I try to keep this light, but for whatever. But you saved up this cumulative energy, right, for the season. You have a net extra profit where you can take it and then invest in something, and then hopefully build up more of your nest egg, and very often, like we were talking about it, right, yesterday, just making sure you get that transaction in the industry. What am I trying to say? Basically, is like Mike did a lot of things incredibly well. Instead of spending all of his money, he was like, no, there's something up. I gotta do some double testing. And then even after he did his double testing, he was still willing to think about all the I have to repress this. I'm going to have to reformulate the price for it. Will the buyer accept the new terms to the deal? All those things can get into very heated situations emotionally between buyers, brokers, sellers, all of it. And, I'm on your guys' side, right? So I'm going to give you the information you need to do a better job, but it's also, I'm giving you this information and we're sharing this information not to be a sleazeball or to do sharp practices on the industry. It's so that we develop ourselves to be better and stay alive in this industry. And so I guess my point is that Mike, he tested the product. He kept his spider sense up, right? And he felt something was wrong. And he was like, well, you know what? I'm not going to just say this is the right thing to do. I got to get back to the farm and check the plants. He put himself into 100% into that deal to be able to make a wise decision, to realize something was up, pull back, and before he lost all his money, right? And
I didn't lose anything.
You didn't lose anything, right? You didn't lose anything. Right. Little time, little frustration. Yeah. Let's talk about it.
It's not true, right? I bought that kilo of, I figured $4,000 is cheaper than $40,000, right? So, basically, I'm going to sell it at $4 a gram. It's okay. It's acceptable, for somebody to give me, say, $100 an ounce for it. No problem anyway, right? It's guaranteed. Like, it's almost like I'll give it to the employees, right? They need smoke every week, right? So they'll be happy with it, but it doesn't meet my standards. And what I want to discuss is what the people are doing. Like this one guy, okay? He's an independent guy. He's always thinking he's going to make a little bit of money. So that's okay. I understand that. So, but what I don't understand is he puts in 5 months of this hard work, right? And by greed, screws everything up. I could have given him $65,000 tomorrow for everything, right? And he would have been happy. But now he's sitting there with his $4,000. I'm going to flip the rest of this. I'm going to be teaching a whole bunch of people what's wrong. Like it's maddening because I went and got like 4 samples yesterday, pressing things that nothing's good, So I'm not going to show nothing about a bunch of knuckle, but I just wanted to go to show that even when you're growing, things screw up. But when you're buying and transplanting, you can still have things screw up, right? And if you don't keep your eye on the ball and be fair with everybody, then you're going to end up losing. Because, this money didn't fall out of the ground. I grew it, right? And it's one thing of growing it. It's keeping it is a different story, right?
So. 100%. Adding on to what you're saying is these issues create supply chain issues through this entire process, right? And when we're talking about small farmers and just trying to be a little, I know we're being open, but a little less, just a request, a little less on the, just to be clear, there are legal markets in this industry that can openly talk about these things, and then there's still illegal markets. We are talking about 100% legal markets. So this group runs toward regulation for a group. Just to be clear on that, I just want to keep reiterating these things. These are legal growers, licensed.
I'm fully licensed.
Yeah, I know. I just making it clear because I just want everyone to know we are a group that runs toward regulation and I want to keep reiterating it as we get into these sensitive topics and discussions. But so go back to what you're saying is we create a supply chain issue, right? And then we have the small farmers, and then we have the commercial farmers, and you have we've spent 100 years, like, or 50 years, however long you want to think, like getting all these people to going down our supply chain our supply chain path or our sales funnel. And then every single time we can't get them their medicine, they go find it somewhere else. And that's why it's also so important, guys, because you're not just on the farming side. If you can't harvest your product to flour, then you have to figure out how to process it, or you have to find someone that you trust that can process it. And that's that's going to be 100 conversations in itself. And it's important, guys, that you don't rush this process, because like that can still later be extracted into oil if it's done properly. It can still be refined further down, like whatever people want for it with it. It's just we're transferring this large amount. Well, first we're growing it into flour, but if you can't sell it, then we got to transfer this unsellable flour into another form where it can still be sold to the market or absorbed into the market, so we can get to the next grow. And yeah, if you guys want to add anything to that thought.
Basically, so this video, the gift of my video is you're growing, you need to talk to your buyer and cater to what he needs, right? Me, it was simple. So the guy wouldn't have froze that. I would have gave him the $4 a gram, and I would have repressed all the water out of it and saved it. At least I wouldn't have any more terpenes, but because of the water destroyed, the sugars was destroyed in the water and the smell, okay? But I would have still be able to extract quality THC, and then I could have used in edibles, or it won't have, like, when you open the bottle, the smell to it because it's pure THC. But I could have used it in a lot of other things. I could have shipped it. Somebody wants to do edibles, right?
That's another great point, right? Why do you think he froze it? Was it their greed? I know that one, we talked about that one, but why else? Maybe bad information. Someone told him to do it for processing or something.
It's because what happens is the guys don't want to wring out the most water because they're losing weight, and they want the most money, right? So as they leave it out to air and it's too much water, it'll rot away and it'll smell like rotten grass, right?
Rot from the inside out.
Yeah, it rottens and dry it. So they put it in the freezer. But what happens when you put it in the freezer? Because of the water and it destroys the trichomes. So the quality is never there.
You know, that's very interesting too. Just thinking about the freezing of the molecule. So I know water's going to freeze, and it's going to create razor blades. I know that. And we know that when you polarize the material, the oil, the fats fall out of solution. But we're dealing with fats, and we're dealing with oil, and we're dealing with ethanol. So it's solvents, not really water at that point, because it's been already went through its extraction process unless it had an error. So I'm just trying to think about that water molecule, like when it's bound up with all that material and it's frozen. I'm wondering how it might damage it.
Well, Mark, my experience, on the it's a little bit more difficult. Basically, what happens is the water melts in, and you lose the elasticity. It's a big killer. Okay, when somebody like the second lady, she has her son-in-law that's sticking her nose into her business. She was doing well for a couple of years, but now since he's been there, he's been screwing everything up for her. So he was weighing out, thought that he was losing too much humidity, losing too much weight. So they decided to freeze it. It wasn't completely dry. It wasn't right to be done. And now, because it's been frozen, all the cell structures are damaged. So when I put that product in the water, I'm going to have a lot more chlorophyll. I'm going to have a lot more fiber. I'm going to have a lot more undesirable things that I don't want.
Yeah, I was also thinking too, maybe it also starts to cause a fermentation process and if it goes through a fermentation process, it might be taking the acid molecules off of the oil and degrading the oil a little faster too. I can definitely see that through a fermentation process with water getting caught up in the in the center of those bricks, and then heat, it's just being compressed in the center. It gets moldy, and then I can see a fermentation process starting. Thing about autoflowers I think are a little bit tricky though. I've seen some of them just stay squatty, and then 5, 6, 7 weeks into growing, they just take off. So I was thinking the autoflower was going to stay shorter, but they ended up not staying shorter. And then while they're already flowering, they end up shooting straight up.